Hellblade, Hellblade. You guys know how I've always felt about Hellblade. I've always, you know, been kind of curious on the whole mental aspect, the whole sounds aspect, but I never really 100% jumped on board. I did recently just play Hellblade 1 and going straight into Hellblade 2 almost immediately. I beat Hellblade 1 last week. And then almost like 2 or 3 days later, I started Hellblade 2. So I think my perspective on Hellblade is going to be a little bit different than most people. I'm actually playing one from the other. I didn't play Hellblade back in the day. I played Hellblade 1 essentially last week. I didn't play it when it launched. I didn't play it when it was a PlayStation exclusive. I played it last week and played Hellblade 2. Took me about 6.5, 7 hours to beat Hellblade 2. Now, look, there is a lot of mixed bags when it comes to Hellblade 2, and I think it's fair. I do think that Hellblade 2 is one of those games that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, but I think the reason people are putting so much energy into Hellblade 2 is just because of where they personally feel Hellblade 2 is, where they personally feel Xbox is. You know, should you judge a game off of where the platform is and how bad the platform has been doing messaging and, the perception around the platform in general? I don't know. I think that's a good conversation. I think a game should be held off its own merits. I don't think you should penalize a game off of how the platform's doing, but that's just me. As far as comparing Hellblade 1 to Hellblade 2, me just playing Hellblade 1, I could tell you that some of the aspects in the combat has been improved in Hellblade 2, but they've also removed some of the aspects in the combat of Hellblade 2. No longer can you do the sidestep attacks. In Hellblade 1, you used to be able to do a sidestep attack. You can't do that no more. You had like a little push button, little punch button. That's no longer in the game anymore. So I do think there is some valid criticism out here saying that it's kind of ridiculous that Xbox allowed Ninja Theory. And maybe it was a decision they had, but it's kind of crazy you would have a decision to make your game have less features in terms of combat than it did at the beginning. Did when it made the original one, Hellblade 1. I think that's fair criticism. I don't understand why they would take that out of the game, because that was actually putting a little bit more in depth into Hellblade 2. Well, the original Hellblade. So it's kind of weird that they would take that out. I personally feel like when you review a sequel, you can definitely compare it to its prequel. You can see if it improved graphically, see if it improved gameplay wise, see if they did other unique ways of telling the story, and pretty much see whatever was that thing that made the original one special. Did they evolve that? And I'm here to tell you, they did in some things and they didn't in some. One thing I will tell you is I felt like the way that she portrays her mental illness, they could do better. Setsuna is supposed to be going through a lot of things mentally. I don't know if she's schizophrenic. I think she's schizophrenia in the game, technically. I don't know. But I do feel like they can portray that a little bit better. You still hear the voices. The Furies are still in this game. But I felt like they are a shell of their former selves. In the original game, I did feel like there was some going back and forth with them. And then she eventually accepts that that's what's happened. She lost her lover and that's who she is. And that carries over into the second one. But going through Hellblade 2, I personally felt like they were in my head, not hers. She never really acknowledges them. She never really even acts like they're real. And they don't even really acknowledge her for the most part. They kind of talking to each other. And then you got the narrator on top of that. I feel like if she's going through severe mental issues, and keep in mind, she's definitely not medicated because of the aspect and the time frame in the game. So I don't feel like she can conquer those fears the way that the game wants you to feel. I feel like she's going to still have those mental issues, and this game's supposed to be about you living with mental issues, not necessarily what happened in the game. I felt like they would have been really good in the game, and maybe it's just me. You guys put in the comment section below if she argues with the voices in her head occasionally in front of new people, you know, and then there would be like this back and forth on she's not trusting her new companions, and they're also a little weirded out because she's talking to herself. Maybe they could have went away like Dead Space 3 and she sees things that they don't see. You know, I felt like they took a lot of the mental aspect stuff out of this game when you should have been amping it up from the first one. You know, it should have been about not only accepting your inner demons, but learning to live with it. And I felt like they didn't really do a fantastic job with that. Now, in terms of the puzzles, boy, oh boy, they back in huge ways. I didn't like the puzzles in Hellblade 1. But I did feel like they separated them to a degree where I did have some combat. I did play a little bit before I came across another one. They did bring back the original stuff that was in the first one. But I felt like the problem here is they have that with like two new puzzles. Now look, maybe since I just played the first one, I'm not thinking about every puzzle I did in the first one. But I do personally feel like just Chapter 4 in Hellblade 2 has almost as many, if not more. Maybe it's not. It's like I said, I could just be seeing it because I said it. Just as many puzzles as the entire game of Hellblade 1. Now, Chapter 4 is a particular part in the game where you would understand why there are puzzles there. But they should have did a better job relaying that. You know, I personally feel like they put puzzles in the game to extend the amount of time you're playing the game. Because if you take the puzzles away, you skip the cutscenes, you could probably beat this game in 3 hours, maybe 4. You know, it's not a long game entirely when it comes to that. So that's the biggest thing I would say about the puzzles is make them entertaining at least. Make them fun to solve. I never felt like the puzzles in Hellblade was mad fun to solve. They were okay. Some of them were a little bit more annoying than others, but I felt like they could do that better. The third one, please, for the love of God, do different gameplays than just puzzles. Set pieces is in Hellblade. And let me tell you guys now, the set pieces in Hellblade are phenomenal to a lot of degrees. The immersion, because of the high graphics, and like I said, this game got graphics for days, man. Some of the best graphics I've ever seen in gaming, if not the best. The graphics and animations and the way they do certain, you know, sounds is so good. It made the fighting better to me. Now, they did remove the stuff that I felt like they shouldn't have, but I do appreciate the fact that they made the fight so real. Because, guys, it's real. Like, when you fight the first boss, the Slaver, the fight is so intense that when you're fighting him, he's swerving. There's all kinds of stuff going on. There's environment stuff. Like, it's very intense, and I think they did a phenomenal job with doing the immersion when it comes to Hellblade 2. Now, when it comes to if you should buy this game or not, it is $50. So you do get a little bit of a discount. You got to consider that it would be $40 if they didn't do a $10 increase. So for a $40, $50 game, mainly $50, I would say that this game, if you enjoyed Hellblade 1, is worth your money. Now, if you got Game Pass, you definitely subscribe, play that on there because you already pay for the subscription service. So it makes, definitely makes sense for you to utilize the subscription services that you're paying for. The biggest thing I want to say is when people make this game again, when they make the Hellblade 3s, I looked up because Hellblade 2, it's not reviewing horribly, but it's not reviewing where people think it should have. And I think it's unfair to review this game off of where Xbox is and the perception Xbox is in, instead of it being Hellblade 2. And I think a lot of people are doing that, and it's not fair to a huge degree. I think this game's got a good, huge ceiling. The simple fact that when I'm playing this game, I'm thinking, you know what? If they try to make something different, I think it would work out better for them. I feel like if Ninja Theory didn't go as hard on the graphics, but still make the game look visually impressive and focus a little bit more on the gameplay, I actually think that'd be a very valuable studio for Microsoft. But anyway, that's my review on Hellblade 2. I do recommend you buying it if you liked Hellblade 2, Hellblade 1. And if you got the subscription service, Xbox Game Pass, go on there and play it because you're already paying for it. You might as well try it out. The game is definitely worth your time if you have Game Pass. Now, as far as buying it, that's up to you guys. I just give you guys the information. You take it how you want it. If you enjoyed Hellblade 1 or maybe Rise, Son of Rome or the Order 1886, there's a chance you might like this game, especially if you liked Hellblade 1. But if you're into, in-depth combat, really unique storytelling, because I don't feel like the story on this game isn't bad, but it didn't really captivate me too much, then maybe you should look elsewhere for a game. There's a lot of stuff out right now. But I do feel like what Ninja Theory accomplished here is a good game. And it's sad that a lot of people in the industry are comparing it to Xbox's state instead of the game itself. Now, obviously, it is like a 5 to 8 hour game, depending. I don't think you could beat this game in 5 hours unless like you skip the cutscenes. I saw a couple people saying they beat it in 5 hours. Maybe you can. I beat it in almost 6.5, and I kind of beeline the game. So it's kind of crazy people are beat it in 5 hours. I guess they to me they had to have been skipping the cutscenes. I don't know. I'm not going to make assumptions on people. But that's pretty much it for the video, guys. If you enjoyed this video, definitely hit that like button. It's always appreciated. You can always sub to the channel. We appreciate all the love and support you guys give on the Gaming Addict channel. I have a YouTube channel for streaming called Addict Arena. You can follow me on Twitter at LordAddictILP. All that's in the description below. And until next time, this is Gaming Addict. I'm out of here. Peace.